Okay, I'm gonna put a little audio with the spring multiple choice questions that we're going through today, Monday. So here we go. So the first one, we really just have two choices for the measure of center. So we have either the mean or the median. It's the mean in this case because there aren't any outliers, and it also isn't skewed to the left or the right. This one is, what you have to do is you want to calculate the mean with all of the numbers as they are. So this one turns out to be 133. When you add them up and divide by 8, it's 16.625. And then calculate them without the outlier, which is without the 42. So that's 91 over 7, which is 13. So the outlier does increase the mean by 3.6, and the outlier has no effect on the median because if you put them in order, you can tell that the middle number would be right there, 13, and then if you take out the 42, then the median would still be 13. Okay, this one, the one that's not correct is 75% of the data is less than 81. Because if that was the case, this right here is 81 and that's not 75% of the data. This would be 75% of the data, the 84 and less. This one, the Sung, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, Sung scored 23 points in an away game. Well, this bottom one is the one it would have to be, and you can tell because if it has 23 points, this is the only one that actually has that high of a score. This one only goes up to about 21. And you guys remember what when it has mirror images, that means it's symmetric. It's the same on both sides. So that's a quick one. Okay, with the stem and leaf plot, you can tell that there are 20 numbers on each side, and if you go right to the middle, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right in between 10 and 11, you can tell that the median of this one on the right is 146, and the median of the one on the left, group 1, is right here. It's right in between the 9s here, so 129 is the median. So you can definitely tell group 2 has a higher median. And yeah, doesn't really have anything about the range. This one is 0.4 plus something, has to give you the total, which is 0.6, so you can tell that that has to be 0.2. This is a geometric sequence. You can tell you have to multiply by 5. So that means the 5 is the number that goes here in the parentheses. The number that goes in this first spot is the first term, which is -2, and it's raised to the n minus 1. So if we're looking for the 7th term, we just plug in a 7 here for the subscript. A sub 7 equals -2, 5 raised to the 7 minus 1, which is 6, and then on your calculator you can figure out that you get that number. This one is an arithmetic sequence because it has a common difference of 4. You can tell you have to add 4 each time to get the next term. So the formula is a sub 1 plus parentheses n minus 1 times the common difference. So the first term is -21, and then if we do n minus 1, that means it's the 54th term minus 1, that's why it's 53, times 4, which is the common difference, and then we just do the math there, we get 191 for the 54th term. The perimeter of these objects, the perimeter is the number of sides that it has here, so this has 6 sides. The next one has 10 sides. The figure 3 has 14 sides. So you can tell the number of sides goes up by 4, and that's an arithmetic sequence. So and then the first term is 6, and so that's how we would state a recursive arithmetic sequence. It's a sub n plus 1 equals a sub n plus 4. This one I probably would make a table. So 1, 4, 2 shirts is $7, 3 shirts is $10, and you can tell that the dollar amounts are going up by 3, and the number of shirts are going up by 1. So that means there's a slope of 3 over 1, or 3. And then you can plug in one of the points. You can plug in 1, 4 and solve for b and try to write it in slope-intercept form. The other way you can do it is you can just plug in points into these equations and see which ones work. So if you plug in a 1, 3 times 1 plus 1 gives you 4. So you can tell if you put in a 2 there, it has to give you 7. So that's the only one that works, at least for those first two numbers. This one is a geometric sequence. You're having to multiply by 4, and the first term is 2, so that's why that first little number in front is a 2, and then the number that's in parentheses is a 4. Jessica wants to make enough money, so we're going to use this formula. The P is the principal, it's the starting amount, that's $7,000. 1 plus the interest rate, that's 4%, written as a decimal, it's 0.04, raised to the t, which is the number of years. So this is a guess and check problem, so just try these number of years, and then whichever one gives you the $10,000, which in this case it's 10 years. If you want to write something that's in radical form, you want to write it in fractional form, then I would suggest taking the square root of this number. It'll probably be a perfect square, so square root of 49 is 7. And then the way the fraction, the radicals work is they turn into fractions, so the number that's on the outside here goes on the bottom, so this is 5 over 2. So n raised to the 5 over 2. This is the reverse of that, so 121 raised to the 1/2 is the square root of 121 raised to the first power, which is the same thing as 11. The square root of 121 is 11, because 11 times 11 is 121. There are two exponential functions here. There's the 0.9 and there's the 7. The only one that's going to grow, actually get bigger, is when the number in the parentheses is bigger than 1. So that's your exponential growth. All of these that have percentages are exponential functions. The saguaro cactus growing at a constant rate of 2 inches per year is a linear function. So that's what you want to look for here. Exponentials have percentages, and linears just go up or down by a constant amount. There are two answers that could work. If something's tripling, it's considered an exponential function, so it could be one of these two graphs. The reason why we know it's 150 is because that has to be our starting amount, so that's our y-intercept. This one again is tripling in size, so it's going to be 3 in the parentheses, and then the 5 wolves is your starting amount. That's the number that goes in front. When you look at these tables, the 3 other ones are growing linearly because it's growing at a constant amount. This one is 3 to 9, it's going up by 6, 9 to 15, going up by 6. These other ones, this one's going up by 5. This is the only one where it's actually going up by a number you're having to multiply by. So it's going up, you're having to multiply by 3, so it's tripling. We want to use the distributive property with problems like this. So we have negative 4m squared minus 2n, and then we want to combine like terms. So 11m squared minus 4m squared is 7m squared. 7n minus 2n is 5n. So that's our answer. This one we want to multiply these two binomials together. So we're going to make sure we use the distributive property. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 2 is negative 4x. 1 times x is x. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And then combine your like terms. So that's negative 3x. Or we could use the box method, which is what I'll do on the next problem. So we have x plus 4 squared. We have to make sure we multiply x plus 4 times x plus 4. X and 4 go here, and x and 4 go here. So we multiply them together. That's x squared. This is 4x. These two multiplied together are 4x, and then 4 times 4 is 16. Normally it'll be these diagonal ones that'll be the like terms. So in this case, it turns out to be 8x in the middle. Factor completely, we know we always take out the GCF first, so they have an 8x squared in common. We put parentheses, and then we see what's left. So 8x times 1 will give you the same thing back again, plus, and then we got to put a 3y in the next spot there to give us the 24x squared y. Oh darn, I forgot to start my stopwatch. I want to see how long this is. Okay. Factor the polynomial. So this is one of the semi-harder ones where you have to just multiply the first number times the last to start us off. So 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to be negative 21 and add up to be the middle number, which is 4. 7 and negative 3 work. So we have to rewrite the middle term as those two terms, those two numbers. And now we've created a 4-term polynomial. So that means we can factor it by grouping. So the first two terms have an x in common. So we take out an x, and then we see what's left, 3x plus 7. The last two terms have a negative 1 in common. So we take that out, and we see that there's a 3x plus 7 left over. They both have a 3x plus 7, so we take out the 3x plus 7, and we see that we have an x minus 1 left over. The other thing you can do is kind of, because it's a multiple choice test, is you can multiply these together just using the distributive property. And if you multiply them together, you'll see that you'll have this answer. So it's kind of working backwards there, taking advantage of a multiple choice test. Okay, this is a pretty hefty one. We want to multiply these two together, so 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. When you distribute this, you get 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 once you do the outer and the inner there. And then you want to slide everything to the left-hand side. So if you subtract 3x from this side and 3x from this side, you're going to get x. And then subtract 1, that will disappear. And then you want to factor this, so look to see what they have in common. So they have an x in common, parentheses, and then 4x plus 1 would be left over. And then take each of these little factors and set them equal to 0. So x equals 0. And when you set this one equal to 0, you solve for x, and you get x equals negative 1/4. So those two answers. This one you want to look at the 16, so we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 16 and they add up to be 10. So 8 and 2 would be the numbers. We do a little double bubble, x plus 8 times x plus 2 equals 0. And we don't have to do factor by grouping or anything funky for this because it's the easier type where this is a 1 in front. And so we set those equal to 0 to get your actual answers of negative 2 and negative 8. This one, remember, we take the square root to get rid of the squared. So that gives us x minus 3 equals, remember the plus and minus. So plus and minus the square root of 2. And then to move that minus 3 over, you have to add it over to the right-hand side. So that's going to give us x equals 3 plus and minus radical 2. The quadratic formula will give you that. And so first thing to do is take out your 3 as your A, your 5 as your B, and negative 7 as your C, and then just plug it into the quadratic formula. So x equals the opposite of b, so negative 5 plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then just keep working it out. So we got 25, we have two negative signs, so that makes a positive. This is 84 when you multiply these three numbers together. And under the radical, that's 109, so that's the best we can do. The roots, that's about the easiest question. Where does this graph cross the x-axis? So that's at 1 and 3. The correct graph, well, this being a positive number, that means it opens upward, so it can't be A and C. So then we want to figure out the axis of symmetry. So we do negative b over 2a. The opposite of b, right now the b is negative 2, so the opposite of that would be 2 over 2 times the a, so 2 times the 1, and that gives us 1. And then this one already doesn't look like it's at 1, so it's probably not going to be that one. But then we have to take the 1 and plug it in to see what the actual y-coordinate is of the vertex. So we plug in the 1, and we get negative 2. So that clearly is graph D. Same process for this one. The vertex is achieved by doing negative b over 2a. So the opposite of b is 8 divided by 2 times the a, which is 2. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and then we take the 2 and plug it back in, and we get the y-coordinate of negative 5. So we have a vertex of 2, negative 5, and the axis of symmetry is x equals 2. This is the motion problem, so we have h equals negative 16t squared plus, and then for the v, we put in the initial velocity that's given, which is 8. So we have plus 8t plus the s, which is the starting height. That's 24. This problem, we're looking to see how long it will take to hit the water. So that's a height of 0. So we put in the 0 for the h. And remember that trick to be able to make the number smaller. So we could divide all three by 8 since they have that in common. And then we could use the quadratic formula. Numbers are a little smaller. Or you can graph this on your calculator. You can do y sub 1 equals. And when you graph it, it looks like this graph, parabola, and it crosses the x-axis at 1.5. So that's just another option since we have the nice graphing calculators. This one has several points that are given, and there are some missing in between there. So you'll notice that it goes up. Here it goes from 0.5 to 1, and then it goes to 2. And you can tell that you're multiplying by 2. If we had put in another ordered pair there, then the next ordered pair would have been 2, 4, and then it goes 3, 8, which is in there, and then the one that's missing is 4, 16, and then 5, 32, and then you can definitely tell that you're multiplying by 2, which means you're doubling, and that's an exponential function. How would the graph be different if you had this little minus 4 at the end? Well, that shifts the graph down 4 units. So you have to remember that when it's sort of outside of the function there, that it shifts the graph up and down. This being a minus means that all your y-coordinates are 4 units lower than they would have been. We want to solve this system, and so substitution works great. So we take the top function there and we plug it in, just doing a little erasing here. So we take this x squared plus 5x plus 4 and we put it in the bottom equation on the left hand side. And then we want to shift everything over to the left So we want to subtract 8x, and we want to subtract 8. So 5x minus 8x is minus 3x. 4 minus 8 is minus 4. And then we do a little double bubble, and this is how it factors. X minus 4 times x plus 1. And set each of your factors equal to 0 to get your x coordinates. So we have x equals 4 and x equals negative 1. And then we take both of those and we plug them individually into one of those equations. The easiest one is that one. So we take 8 times 4, which is 32, plus 8, so that's where we get the 40. And then we take the negative 1 and put it there, so that's 8 times negative 1. So that's negative 8 plus 8, which is 0. Okay, this graph would have been right at the origin, and it kind of normally just goes like this, sort of. But it's shifted to the right 2 units. So remember, if it's kind of in the radical like that, it's going to be an x coordinate, so it's going to go left or right. And remember, it's sort of counterintuitive. If it's x minus, it goes to the right. And if it's x plus, it goes to the left. So that answer is B. The functions that grow the fastest are exponential functions. So whenever the variable is the exponent, that's called an exponential function. And these all get very large as x gets very large, but exponentials grow the fastest. So that's just an important piece of information to know. This one says that whenever x is greater than or equal to 2, that the function is 4. So, by the way, this one is not a function at all because it doesn't pass the vertical line test, so that's out of the question. And then, so it could be either one of these other ones, at least according to the 4 part. And then the other piece of information is that this says negative x squared plus 2. So we should recognize that that's a parabola, it's quadratic, and it opens downward. And there's only one that actually opens downward. So use that kind of knowledge to help you out, because otherwise you're going to be plugging in a bunch of points, and that does work. Definitely can plug in some points. Like if we plugged in 0, then we know that that's 2. And if we plugged in a 1, then we know that that would be negative 1 plus 2, so that would be 1. So we'd be right at that point. So you can plug in some points to verify. And finally, the absolute value functions are V-shaped, at least like these types are, the linear ones. And the x plus is going to shift the graph to the left 3 units. So again, this is the counterintuitive one. So I think that is going to be it. Good luck. That was quick. You can pause and, think about it a little bit. But if you know these 40 questions, you are going to be in great shape. So study a lot. Good luck.